Hi, this is Marlene.Gibb with What Do You Do? And today's guest is Karin Ordubegian. And Karin, what do you do?
I'm a family law attorney.
Okay. And you're also from Iran. So
Yes.
I want to start back because you immigrated here at 17?
At 17.
So let's talk about that. Why?
The revolution was starting, and I was involved with the Armenian cause, and a lot of my friends were getting into a lot of trouble. So one day I came home and I told my parents, I'm leaving. I'm going to America. Either you help me get a visa, get out, or I'm walking, backpacking. Knowing that I would do that, my father got up the next morning and really started working hard to get me a visa. And we were out in a month.
Wasn't it hard to get out at that time?
It was, but I was fortunate. I had a surgery in America before. I had scoliosis and I had 2 surgeries in America. And being my uncle was a doctor, prepared some paperwork for me that I have to go back for a checkup. So they gave me a temporary visa to go to Boston for a checkup.
Okay.
And so I came to Boston, visited cousins, and I decided I'm going to California. My dad said, why are you going to California? It's like, Boston is too cold, I don't want to stay here. So I decided I'm going to California.
Yeah, I kind of decided that the same way. And the same thing, yeah.
I had a relative, I had an aunt in Orange County, another one in Glendale. So my dad talked to my aunt, she's like, can she stay with you? Which lasted a month. And I was out and about on my own ever since I was 17.
Okay. Now, had you finished high school?
I was in high school. It was my senior year.
Well, that was a big adjustment to come into it.
It was absolutely a big adjustment. I had no money. I didn't speak English.
Oh, wow.
I think I had about $2,500 in my account, a $1,000 car. It was a yellow Ford Capri, and no driver license. And I decided, and I drove it to school every day, and took around some friends with me along the way, and budgeted myself to pay tuition because I was going to private school. Go to McDonald's every day and have my lunch. I was eating once a day, and budgeted myself. So finally, and then I decided, you know what, I'm better off finding a job. So looked in the paper, found a job as a live-in babysitter. All I had to do is drop off the kid, go to school, come pick her up, bring her home, eat together, make sure she does her homework, and walk the dog. And I would get a room and board and $60 a week for gas money, and it was perfect for me. It worked out perfectly.
And how long did you do this?
Until end of high school.
Were you still at the private school too?
Yes, yes.
Now, why didn't you go to a public school?
My father decided that it's better off if I go to a private Armenian school and get my diploma in Armenian as well, since it was the last year.
And so you're trying to learn the language and trying to adjust to this country. I mean, you were a kid, and you're trying to adjust. And
they didn't have ESL classes at the private school, so it was very hard. But guess what? I was tutoring other kids, because even though I didn't speak English, but in some subjects I was so much ahead of them. So I was helping them out. But no, my English was horrible.
Okay, so you stayed a year, and then you graduated high school. Then what did you decide you were going to do? Now, had your English started improving within that year?
Just a little bit. Enough to get me by.
Okay.
Seriously, enough to get me by. But by then, my visa had expired. I was illegal. And so I decided I'm not going back. And my father kept saying, you need to come back. They closed all the borders. I can't send you any money. I can't help you out. You need to come back. And I said, I'm not coming back. I'll find myself a job and I'll stay here. And I did find myself a job.
Yeah, but it was not a legal job, was it?
No. I was getting paid $2. I was getting paid $1.80 an hour working 14, 15-hour shifts, 7 days a week. And the only day off was April 24th, because Armenians are supposed to shut down their businesses on that day.
Okay.
And the guy was taking off taxes, which I had no clue, but I was illegal. I'm not paying taxes, it's cash money. Why you're deducting taxes?
He was doing what he was supposed to be doing, but you weren't. Okay, that's another story.
But anyways, yeah.
So then what happened? I mean, here you are, illegal now.
I was.
Did you get your driver's license? I mean, did you get a real driver's license by that time?
I did.
Okay,
I did.
good. Okay.
I got a driver license, and I applied for asylum. I decided I'm going to stay here. I applied for asylum, and they rejected me. This was during the hostage taking, so it was hard times for Iranians and Armenians, even though I'm Armenian Christian, but it was still a very hostile times for us. So they rejected me 3 times. At the time, I had a boyfriend. So I go to immigration for my 4th interview, and they give me a letter with a red stamp on it. I have 24 hours to leave the country.
Oh my God.
So I come out and I tell my boyfriend, his name was Arman, I go, Arman, they're kicking me out. I'm out of here tomorrow, or else they're going to come escort me out. And that had happened to friends of mine.
Oh, really?
So he goes, Karin, what do you say we go get married? We are going to get married one day anyways. I go, are we? And he goes, yeah, let's just give it a shot, see what happens. I go, I guess I don't have a choice, you know. So we got married. And then I went back to the immigration, waited in line for 4 hours. And I saw the officer. And I said, I'm married. And he was really, really upset at me. But he couldn't do anything.
Right, right.
And he said, I know you're lying. I said, no, I swear, this is my boyfriend. We were going to get married in a few years, but I guess we expedited things because I'm not going back.
Did you get married in California, or did you go over to Vegas or something?
Courthouse.
Oh, okay.
Los Angeles courthouse.
Okay.
$53 we paid to the magistrate to marry us at the time.
Yeah.
So, and then we got married for real. Me and him. A few years later.
But you were legally married.
We were legally married, but we had a ceremony, Armenian and all that. No one knew that we were legally married. That's how I got to stay here.
Now you're what? How old are you now?
Now I'm legal.
Yeah, well, how old were you then? About 20?
23, 24.
Okay, you're 23, 24. Now, when did you decide were you going to college? What were you doing in between all of
I was going to college part-time and working. By then, I got married. I started working for Los Angeles County Department of Public Social Services. And we go to Vegas one night, me and my husband, Arma. Get a little drunk, was sitting at the hotel room talking, and he goes, I always wanted to go to law school. I go, it's not too late, Armand, we're only in our 20s. You can go to law school, I have a good job, I can support you until you finish law school. He goes, you think it's easy? You go do it. Simple as that. He goes, you go do it. And I go, okay. And we both forgot about it. But somehow it was back on my mind. Can I do it? This girl who came here at age 17, not speaking English. I'm still struggling with the language. Can I really do it? And so I decided I'm taking the LSAT, and I didn't tell anybody. By then I had graduated. So I took the LSAT.
Now this is like the SAT for the law profession, right? And you already had your degree.
I was almost ready to.
And what were you majoring in?
Business administration.
Okay, undergrad. Okay.
So I go, okay, I'll go take it and see what happens. So I'm looking at the questions, and I'm like, what is this all about? I have no clue what this test is all about. I mean, half the questions I didn't understand. I got enough score to get me into law school. So I announced it at my graduation. I said, guess what, everyone? I decided I'm going to law school next year. I already registered. I'm going to give it a shot.
Okay.
And that's how it started.
And you majored in criminal law.
Well, in law school there is no major. I mean, you do general law and then you can take some classes and stuff. What I did is, after graduation, that's the first job I got. My very first real job as an attorney, once I passed the bar, was in criminal law. I worked for William Grayson. It was very interesting. He interviewed me. He's like, you can start Monday. And then Sunday night, I think it was 11:30 at night, he calls me. He goes, you have a court hearing tomorrow. You're going to go to Compton. And
now, I will back up before you go. Talk about who William Grayson was.
Oh, William Grayson.
Before
he's a famous criminal attorney. He represented Jim Brown and Zsa Zsa Gabor. Very charismatic character. I mean, interesting soul. He passed away a few years ago. But when he hired me, 11:30 at night, he calls me. It's like, are you going to Compton, you know, for your first hearing? And my heart is pounding. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Did you know where Compton was? No.
I knew.
Okay.
I used to work for LA County, so I knew where Compton was. But so he gave me the address. I jotted down. I took my map book, and I'm driving to Compton. Get to the courthouse, and I see the client. And all I have to do is get an extension, you know, postpone the hearing. I'm having a heart attack. So you got to go up to the table and introduce yourself and say who you're representing, right? My mouth is moving, but no sound is coming out. This judge, very nice judge, I can't remember his name. He's like, counsel, did you just pass the bar? And I go, yes, Your Honor. He goes, don't worry about it. We've all been there. You're having a heart attack right now. I go, yes. It's like, okay, we'll coach you through this. This is what you do. This is what you say. So repeat after me. Okay. And on the record, I started repeating after him. So, counsel, in your own words, tell me what you're here for. So, Your Honor, I just wanted to take extension of time. You know, can you give me another date for the hearing? And she's like, sure. And I walked out, and I felt like I was going to die. But that was it. That's how my first appearance started, and I guess after that it was easy. What do? You just go introduce yourself, you tell them what you want, and you're done.
Now this was in the criminal law.
This was in the criminal law. A lot of exciting things.
Well, yeah, that's the drama, the whole world of drama, right?
It was
facts
fabulous.
Do facts really mean much in that world?
It's a different world.
Yeah.
It's a busy world. It's always something happening. The courtroom is chaotic as you walk in. Everybody's talking to everybody. It's like the old days, those bazaars that you haggle and you barter with people. All attorneys with district attorneys, they barter with one another. Why don't you reduce this charges and I give you this and do that? All over the place. And the judge is talking for himself. You know, everybody's on the record somewhere here and there. But it's fun. It's a lot of adrenaline going in that room.
How long did you work in criminal?
Not even a year. Close to a year, but I ended up quitting that job, which I regret.
Okay.
I regret that I quit, but it became hard for me.
In what way?
The attorney I was working with, he had a lot of Armenian clients. So as an Armenian, when you see another Armenian, you tend to speak the language. So they would walk in and talk to me in Armenian, how you doing? And he kind of thought that I'm kind of schmoozing with this clientele or trying to open my own place. So he would give me assignments, call me late at night every night, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And I kept telling him, call me until 9, 8, 10. It's okay, but don't call me 2 o'clock in the morning and give me an assignment for the next day. And he became a little bit more and more harsher with me. So I decided I'm better off trying something else. By then I had found a job with a civil attorney who became my best friend until now. Baha'i guy. His name is Perry Roshan Zamir. Amazing attorney and an amazing friend.
Okay. So what were you doing with him?
With him, I was doing a lot of civil stuff, you know.
So what's civil? What's considered civil?
Like if you're doing business transaction and you sue each other for non-payment, breach of contract, a lot of contract defects. So we were doing all kinds of stuff. Construction defects, he would take a lot of construction defect cases, banking issues.
Oh, the construction could be a real, well, that probably is another drama.
Yes, yes. It was interesting, but a lot of paperwork, a lot of dates and paperwork, files were taken. Fun to work with, beautiful office, but wasn't my cup of tea.
No, this is important because I think when people think law, they don't think law. They think law in terms of
law and order.
Yeah, things like that. But I mean, there's you have the corporate lawyers who never even go into court.
That's true.
Or a lot of the people who work with estates and planning. I mean, there's all kinds of law. I mean, there's copyright law, patent law, and trying to find your niche within this big general category. And I think this is what happens in almost every field. You know, people say they want to be in business. Well, what kind of business? I mean, business is so big, and I think law is so big.
That is true, and I think every graduated law student will clerk in different law firms or come out and work in different law firms until you find where your heart is and where you want to concentrate. Then you start taking classes if there is a state bar is offering a specialization, then you take extra classes, you try to complete your hours and take all kinds of cases that it's required to become a specialized in a field. Family law is one of those that you can become specialized in.
So what drew you to that?
Perry's office was in Santa Monica, and I lived in Glendale. Although I loved the drive, I loved my office, I was also trying to get pregnant, and it was very hard for me to commute at the time. And so I was looking around, and a friend of mine said that there's a family law attorney in North Hollywood who's looking for an attorney. Would you be interested to go for an interview? And I did. And I told Perry, I said, Perry, I found something closer. It's something that I want to try. Family law always interests me, so I want to go work for him and see how it goes. And so that's how I started. Then I started working for Ron Gold, another brilliant attorney.
But why'd you pick family? What was the draw?
I think because I always heard not too many attorneys like to practice family law.
Oh, it's horrible.
And it's very emotional, very hard, and you have to be a very strong character to be able to do that. More so than being a criminal attorney, more so than, I mean, there's no comparison to civil law and all that. So like to challenge myself. So I said, Karin, you work for Department of Public Social Services, you were a fraud investigator, let's see if you can do family law. And I did. And I jumped into it, and it was easy for me. I mean, it's emotional at times. It gets to me at times, but it was also very natural.
So you just kind of felt like a duck that's found its home.
Sort of, yes.
You know, that this is I mean, because you were trying other things, but somehow when you arrive at what you like to do, it just seems you're using all your natural aptitudes. So what do you think your natural aptitudes are for family law, besides the drama? Because there's drama all over.
There is always a drama, but I feel like people come to me, they're very comfortable talking to me. And because of my personality, you know, I tell them straight how it is, no sugarcoating. I don't tell them what they want to hear. They kind of feel, okay, this is the kind of attorney who's not going to take me to the cleaners and charge me a lot. And I can talk to them and find a reasonable way of resolving my issues. And so it works. It works. I think being a good listener is very important in family law. You have to.
I think in family law, probably criminal law and family law are really big on that.
More so in family law. You have to have a personal relationship with your client.
Because you're going to be dealing with lots of stuff.
With their very, very personal issues.
I know.
Their money, their kid, everything. Everything is with you, and they need to be comfortable with you. It's not just drawing some documents and you're done. You spend hours and hours with them, discovering things about their life that their best friend might not know. And so they have to be comfortable with you.
You are a mediator too?
Yes.
Okay. And you're also a lawyer?
Yes.
And in California, they really try to get the mediation done. They talk about this because people wouldn't know. If you're going to go into a divorce, do you go to an attorney? Do you go to a mediator? What do you do?
This has been several years that the courts are sort of steering people into mediation, and it's done in several different ways. For example, if you want child custody and visitation issues, if you go in front of the judge, before you go in front of the judge, it's mandatory, you have to go to mandatory mediation, which is provided by the court. And the parties make an appointment, they go, attorneys do not go, and they sit down with a mediator and try to resolve that issue, come up with a parenting plan, so to speak. And if they come up with a parenting plan, that becomes the order. And if they don't come up with a parenting plan and they have disagreements, now you then go back to court and say that we can come up with a schedule and we need the court's help. And then you start fighting and negotiating until you get a ruling on it.
Give me an example of something like a ruling on the custody or on the...
On a custody, for example, if both parents, one is asking for full custody and the other one says, no, I want 50-50. So they go to a mediator and they talk about it. And so finally they come to an agreement of 50-50 custody. Now we're going to talk about the visitation. What are you going to do about visitation? Is it going to be 1 week on, 1 week off, or is it going to be Monday, Tuesdays, every other weekend? How are we going to split these kids?
This must be hard on the kids.
It is extremely hard on the kids.
Yeah, I mean,
and unfortunately, parents at the time, they don't realize how hard it is on the kids, because you're done with your spouse. You want out. You want to move into your own home, start your new life, but with the kids, you're not. You're breaking their home into two different places. All of a sudden, they're schlepping their luggages from one place to another constantly. And it's not a good place for them to be. And study shows that most of them blame themselves for the divorce. They were the cause of it. And so it goes on and on. Yes.
Yes, isn't that sad?
Very sad. So courts have been saying that, I mean, if you have to get a divorce, at least do it amicable. Don't fight in court system. Don't go after each other's throat. Both of you are parents with the same rights. Can you mediate this? And so they keep saying, have you gone to mediation? Have you tried to settle this? Have you guys had settlement meetings? So they keep promoting that. So a few years ago I decided that I want to take a mediation class and start that approach. And just about anybody that walks into my office, and I tell them, I can go to court and fight. I'm equipped to do that. But that's not my priority. My priority is to get you guys settled. If you have to do this, do it amicably. because you have kids involved. You have to face each other until these kids are settled down and out and about their way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I mean, you might not live together, but you're still married to one another in different ways. And so it works. Sometimes it works. If they really have the kids' best interests at heart, they listen to me. It's only those angry ones who are bitter at each other and they just want to go out there and kill their spouse.
Yeah, and I know you've told me that you don't want to be the therapist. You want to be the attorney, and you don't want it to drag on for years and years.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I tell all my friends, whoever that approaches me, although I don't take cases from friends and family, I tell them one advice I'll give you. Find yourself a good mediator, settle it. Even if you have to pay a little extra or give up a little more rights, you'll come and thank me one day.
Okay, so give me an example of rights. You know, I mean, because sometimes rights, custody rights are some of the big rights. All right, well, what are the biggest, what are the rights that people don't want to give up?
The notion of 50-50 custody is
not real.
Not real.
Okay.
Especially for females. This is my child. I gave birth.
Yeah,
and he's not a good father. He's always at work or watching TV. Okay, I get it. I really do get it.
Right.
But, I mean, at one point you wanted to share a child with this man, right? The one that you hate right now.
Right.
Is he not the father? When you're not there to feed your child, believe me, he's going to make something for that child to eat. And he's going to take him to the soccer ball practices. And he's going to make the bed and wash the clothes when you're not around. So what makes you think that you have 100% right to this child and not him? He wasn't a sperm donor for crying out loud.
No.
You loved him and you wanted to share a child with him. So constantly I keep telling them, what makes you think that you apply to a sperm donation bank? This
in a sperm donation bank, you do have 100% right? If you get a sperm, by the way, I don't know.
No, I don't think so, no.
Oh, okay.
No, but women tend to treat their ex, or soon to be their exes, as sperm donors. And it's not right. I don't think it's right. So I constantly have to remind them that.
Because it gets ugly. I mean, I think it's hard on children to see the fighting and you know whose house you're at, and I don't know.
It's devastating, and it's especially around holidays when they start fighting over who's having Christmas and who's having New Year and Thanksgiving Eve. My place, your place, and the kids are, I want to have a Christmas, but why can't I have it with both my parents around? Because no matter what, if you look at their perspective, they both someone very important in their heart, right?
Right.
And they want to spend that special day with both of them. But they can't.
What happens to children? I mean, have they done a lot of research on divorce? What it really does to children, and what it does to parents? I mean, you know.
Yes, but it goes beyond that. It all depends how you look at it and what happens. I mean, just the pure separation brings a negative thought about loyalty and love and relationships.
Right, right.
But the anger you carry, obviously, as a child, you carry that anger.
And probably they don't understand.
They don't, but they become
this
angry teenagers and the future reckless drivers and the little petty criminals and the abusers. That's how it starts.
That's sad.
It is sad. And that's why I try to promote if you have to get a divorce, at least do it amicably. Be on friendly terms.
Do they sometimes, the parents go through counseling together, even if they're going to have a divorce? Or do they go to mediation together? I mean, or do they do both?
They do. I mean, obviously they come to me as an attorney, and the first thing I say, let's mediate this. Before I even talk to you, go bring your spouse, let's sit down, and I won't represent you alone, I'll represent both of you. Or we can have another attorney and the four of us can put our heads together. Because at the end, you'll be happy, you spend less money. And you won't have that anger, the anxiety of going to court. It's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling.
No,
I don't care how many times you go to court.
Yeah.
But when you have to go for that personal issue in front of all those people and the judge, and you have to start talking about your life now, it is the hardest thing on earth.
You mean the parents have to talk about their lives?
I had a girlfriend who was going through a divorce, and being an accountant and CPA, and she does a lot of testimonies in court, she was telling me, just for my own reason, while she was going through a divorce, she's like, one time I went to court and I decided I never want to come here. I mean, I can go to court and testify, but I can't do this. So I told her, get a mediator, settle. You might have to spend maybe a few hours less time with your child during the week, in the beginning, or whatever. You might have to pay a little bit more alimony, but do it that way. It's a blessing. You find friendship and peace between the two of you, and now they're best friends. They have a better relationship now than they have ever been as married couple. And they share their children, and they're very amicable. They sometimes go out to dinner, they spend holidays together, or at least part of it, and the kids are a lot happier and healthier that way.
And have they remarried her, or are they, no?
No.
Okay.
Too soon.
Too soon, right.
But even if that happens, they gain that respect that they lost during their marriage life. Slowly they're gaining that respect back.
They couldn't make it as a couple, though?
Unfortunately not.
Yeah, but at least if you can't make it as a couple, you've got the children to think about. I mean, that's
because the focus changed. Now they're thinking, now she's thinking, I'm doing this for my kids' sake. I want my kids not to suffer as much as they have already suffered. So what she does is, you know, she invites him over for dinner every once in a while, or if there is something planned, a game that they both need to go, she'll call, tell him, hey, we need to go see this game, it's important for him, and whatnot. And they have a very good relationship right now, as good as it can get.
Yeah.
But she knows, at least he's not my husband, but I can be friends with him.
I know in churches and synagogues sometimes they have classes for people getting married, you know, religious classes.
Yes.
Do you think they ought to have classes for people, different kinds of classes for this sort of thing before you get married, so you know what you're getting into, getting married? Because I don't think people understand marriage is a lot of work.
I wish there was such a class, because most people jump into it not knowing what's it all about.
Right.
And if someone really paints a real picture, I don't think too many people would get married.
That's probably true.
And they shouldn't be married.
No, I just wonder, because I heard a lady speak at my Toastmasters Wednesday, and she was saying that the rate is 52% now, the divorce rate.
Well, I thought California was higher than that.
Oh, really? Well, she thought maybe she was doing national, but she said it was 52.
The national is anywhere between 40 to 60, last I saw. California is way higher. I think we're getting close to 70, even though California doesn't take census in divorces, but
Right.
What the state bar or somebody else, I read an article, somewhere close to 70%, which is way too high.
Oh, yeah.
California, Nevada is another state that has a high divorce rate.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if they had something, the real education, not the romance, the real education behind marriage.
That would be an excellent idea. I think whoever that comes up with those classes will become a millionaire overnight.
Well, I
and
don't
we'll
know.
save a lot of heartaches.
The reality is, there's a whole reality there that I don't think anybody talks about.
You just gave me an idea. Maybe I should switch my career.
You want to go?
Pre-marriage counseling.
Well, I think it's the reason I'm asking is, if you're going to get divorced, and if you do it at maybe when a child's a year, they're not that cognizant of things, or they are.
Yes.
on maybe on an emotional level they get it. People get things on an emotional level, but maybe it wouldn't be as hard. And I know a lot of people wait till after high school to get divorced.
And even then it's hard.
But I think the kids know that they don't like each other, and there's always, you can pick up that friction. You walk in, you can feel the friction.
Unfortunately, I believe that vibe is also not very healthy. So when you stay because of the kids, the vibe in the house, there's not much respect, there's not much love in that house. So, how can you provide that in a healthy, happy family when you really want to be divorced, but you're stuck with the spouse? So kids sense that. Definitely, they sense that.
They know. They know that they know those things. So where are you going to take this? You're going to stay in. You're up here in Monrovia.
Yes, I am.
Well, talk about now that you left your last job and you're working with Alex.
Yes. Well, in between, I opened my office and did my own thing for a long while.
Right.
And last year, I decided that I'm shutting down my office. I took the summer off, enjoyed myself, took a break, and started working with another attorney for a short while, and then I saw Alex's ad on Craigslist. So I came for an interview, and it seemed to work. He does completely something different than I do, and so I get the pleasure of running my own show and being affiliated with a law firm.
And then you came to Monrovia, which is all new to you too.
It's very new, and every day I discover somewhere very quaint, little, fun. It's very pretty, I think.
Yeah.
It's very pretty. I've gone to a few restaurants that really impressed me, and it's almost like going back in time. The little shops and little restaurants and the shopkeepers out there, talking to one another. It reminds you of different times. So
you're happy here.
I'm very happy. I love it here.
And you want to stay in
Yes, it's absolutely great.
But now you can teach classes. You see, you can go into business teaching classes to people who are going to get married.
Why not? Why not? Maybe they should have a little glimpse of reality before they say I do.
I think so. What gave me the idea is I guess when teenagers get pregnant, I think before they get pregnant, they have some classes in the high schools where they carry a baby around all day, and the baby cries and does what babies do, and they're just not cuddly little things all day long. They're real people, small people, but they're real people.
Yeah, of course.
And giving, yes, but as a teenager, I don't think you realize that they're really people. They're like little dolls, but they're not real, right?
But why are you shocked? With adults, it's the same way. They say, I do. They get into marriage. After 2-3 years, they come to me. And when I tell them, the minute you say, I do, it's like...
You did. You did.
Cutting yourself into half and putting her half into you, and all of a sudden you're one. Whatever you do, your work, your efforts, your job, your education, everything becomes community. And they're like, really?
They don't even know this.
And I'm like, and you got into a marriage not knowing? Then all of a sudden you're not your own person anymore. You're not. Everything you think, breathe, eat is shared.
Well,
it's a partnership.
Well, this is a 50-50 state, right?
Yes.
But other states aren't 50-50.
Not every state is 50-50, no.
And this state isn't alimony, is there alimony?
We are alimony, yes.
Okay, but men can get alimony from wives too if she makes more money than he does.
It's all, yes.
So it's very fair.
I don't know if you call it very fair,
Yeah.
but it's fair. I mean, as far as it's not gender related, yes, it's fair, you know. It doesn't matter who as long as you're the breadwinner or you have more income than your spouse, then you're going to pay child support, alimony, yes.
Is that handled well?
No.
Yeah, that's what.
Absolutely not.
Is that part of the mediation?
It's mediation. What it is, and why do people need mediator is basically to give them guidelines, what the law says, and work them through a sort of within that parameter of law. Let's say I just sit there and I say, well, let's talk about spousal support. And I tell them what spousal support is.
And what is it?
It's
what's the exact definition of spousal support?
Spousal support is, the whole notion behind spousal support is to put the couple in the same lifestyle and keep their status quo, sort of speak, as they were married. So let's say if I was married 10 years to my husband, I'm used to a certain lifestyle. And when I get divorced, if I wasn't working, he's to provide me the same kind of lifestyle. Although logically speaking, that can't be true, because all of a sudden, one income is supporting 2 households. You can't have it.
Right.
But as close as your lifestyle that you were accustomed to during marriage. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does make sense.
So I explained that to them in mediation, and so all of a sudden now they have a new understanding of what they're talking about and what the court is going to look at. And I always remind them, if we don't agree to something, we're going to end up in court, and the judge is going to do a ruling, and this is what they're going to go with.
Well, if they have a house, they have to split the house, right? Or
If
one
it's
can
community, one can buy out,
right?
But the assets of that house, the equity in the house, is community asset, and it gets split. So if you have enough money to buy out, you can do that, or you can sell it. It all depends on the situation.
So there are all kinds of ways. I mean, when you go through mediation, you can come up with a lot of creative ways.
Absolutely. It becomes much more creative, much more creative than going to court. Because now you're dealing with 2 parties, 2 attorneys, and a judge, which they're gonna just stick to the law and what the law says, and very little time to play around and become creative. Where in mediation, or even the settlement conferences, the 2 attorneys and the 2 parties can come up with a lot of workable ideas. I mean, bartering, switching things around. You can do a lot of things.
Like what? Give me an example of bartering.
Like, you leave my retirement fund alone, and I give you the house. And I mean, as simple as that. I'm trying to simplify it for you and everybody else to understand. But a lot of situations come up that you're basically haggling.
Well, women want to keep the house. The houses are important.
If they
to
can
them.
afford the payment.
And if they can afford it, right. If they can't, then they're going to have to sell the house.
They can,
or
I
sell
mean,
it.
it's not just the payment, but it's the upkeep. And usually when you're emotional and going through that, you want someone to coach you and remind you the stuff that you need to look forward. I mean, okay, you 10,000 square foot house, but that house has an upkeep, and that house has a lot of utilities to pay. And I keep reminding you, with your spouse's support and child support, you're not going to be able to pay for the house even if it's paid off. It's financially impossible unless you're willing to get a job. And all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't want to work. Well, why do you want the house? It's 10,000 square foot house. It's way too big for you.
I mean, if
Do you understand? I mean, the emotional aspects and their anger takes over their logic.
And when you say this, that you may have to get a job, I mean, does
it does not sit pretty with them. No, not at all.
No, reality sets
but
in.
someone has to bring up the reality time to time. So let's go back to reality and let me shed a light what happens in the real world. And so I think it's a wonderful tool, but people just don't know about it and don't trust that it can be done, or they don't think it's valid because, well, they need to see a judge to get an order and a judgment. But whatever we agree, the judge is going to sign and it becomes a judgment. It's just as valid as any other judgment.
Well, you could lose your shirt going through a turn. I'm not to disparage your.
That is true.
I mean, there's not that much money. I mean, you have a couple $100,000 in the bank, and you go through a nasty divorce. How much does either party walk away with by the time you're finished? Nothing.
Probably less than the half, and they have to split it. I've seen it happen many, many times, where attorney was the only one that came ahead of the game. I mean, Marlene, at $300 to $500 an hour, which is the normal rate,
right?
You know, the more you add fuel to the fire and go to court, deposition, discovery, this, that, and you're just billing. This billable hours becomes 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 a month.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you know, even at $300, that's only almost 7 hours, or no, $2,000. That, and how much does it take to go to court, back and forth?
If you're going to court and coming back, at least 4 hours, because the minute you start driving to court until you come back to the office, you count those hours, and you're never in and out of court, because you go there, you wait, and then you don't know if it's your turn or not. You sit there, and someone is paying you $300 an hour to sit in court, wait until your turn comes up. And with that court hearing goes a lot of paperwork that you have to prepare. And it's all money out of their pocket. And I keep saying, it's not like I always tell them, it's not like I don't want to make money. I love money. I really do. It's no lie. I love money. Buys you nice stuff, gets you everywhere. But you know what? Why do you want me to get rich off of you? Think smart. Let's come to an agreement. At the end, you're the winner. I mean, and then I'll make a small portion and I'm happy. I'm happy that at the end you're happy. Because now that you're happy, you're going to go say, I had a great divorce attorney that helped me, and she was conscientious, and he spent a lot of money. Word of mouth. People talk about you. Eventually, you're the good attorney that doesn't charge too much money. Who cares?
Yeah, and you're trying to, you know, give them therapists if they need therapists to help with that.
At $300 an hour, after a while, I tell them, go through your therapist. 125 versus 300.
Right, and she knows your whole history already anyway, so just
exactly
go handle that. So it's cost effective.
Absolutely cost effective. Absolutely. And that's the money that should go to the kids, to their education fund, and to your retirement fund. I don't want to take that away from you. I just want a reasonable fee for my legal advice am I coaching you and helping you to get this done? But I don't want to rip you out of your savings, your retirement, your kids' college fund. But they're fighting and they want me to do that. And unfortunately, most family law attorneys feed off of that anger. They make their money off of that anger.
But that anger just it's not good for your health.
I can get you this and I can get you that. We need to go to court. We need to depose him. We need to do this. And they create all this work because guess what? They're billing you at $400 an hour. Why is he not ask you, we need to get a deposition? Of course he's going to ask you that. Because one deposition is 8 hours of work.
Really?
Yeah.
So you could be heavily into this in just a matter of 40 hours. I mean, really, at $300, or even at the,
A $5,000 retainer is gone within the first month and a half.
Right.
That's the reality. Now you can take that $5,000 and let me do it for you A to Z, be done with it, and I trust me, your results will be same.
How much does a mediation take if they're willing? And the word is willing. Can you do it in 10, 20 hours?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
But they have to be willing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. We're going to wrap up now, so do you want to say your name and telephone number and web address to the camera?
Sure, it's Karin Ordubegian. Phone number is 626-301-4430, and it's blackburnlawfirm.com.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
This is Marlene.Gibb with What Do You Do?